classes 4, 5 and 6 of Easing into Belly Dance with myself, Guinevere. Happy dancing! So today we're going to be looking at wrist circles in this class. So we always start with a warm-up, looking into how we can access strength, awareness and connection in the areas that we're particularly focusing on as we break down the moves. So I want you to form a prayer hand to begin with. Just spend a moment breathing deeply into the chest. And then breathing deeply into the belly. And while we're doing this, breathing in and out, we're pressing our hands together, feeling a sense of connection, perhaps balance and alignment starting to form. We're just going to take that high as we breathe in, keep the prayer hands breathing in. And release, breathe out. Put the hands over the belly, middle fingers touching together over the navel. And we're just going to breathe in. And feeling the belly expand as we take that breath deep down into the abdominal space. And we breathe out. Measuring this by feeling the hands separate as we breathe in and the fingers connecting as we breathe out, and the tummy contracts down. So breathing in, expand, and breathing out, connect the fingers as we contract. Now we're going to breathe in, prayer hands to down. And we're going to flip that prayer hand down. And we're going to bring it high. Down and high. Down and high. Down and high. And then we're going to just go into our lovely, snaky, relaxing activation of the spine as we send the prayer hand high and back to the heart space, and then launching it back up. So just starting to wiggle into the whole spine and the torso, and then bringing the hands forward. And we're just going to catch hold of the fingers and draw the fingers back towards our chest, feeling a stretch in the forearms. Change that, tuck the fingers down like a hook and feel a stretch in the top of the arm there. Release, circular motions backwards and forwards, and we'll change. So again, we're drawing those fingers back, feeling the stretch in the bottom part of the arm, flipping it over and feeling a stretch in the top of the arm, the lower arm. Just enjoying that stretch there, mainly into the wrists and the arms. Gently release. And circle motions with the arms. I want you to wiggle your fingers. Shake your wrists, wiggle your fingers, shake your wrists, wiggle your fingers, shake your wrists, all the way around. Wrists, fingers, wrists, fingers, wrists, fingers, wrists, fingers. So we're isolating our movement. Wrists, fingers, wrists, fingers, wrists, fingers, wrists, fingers, wrists, fingers, wrists, fingers. How's that? When did you last do that exercise? That's what I want to know. Breathing in and pull gently the elbow down and back, and gently bend to the side as we breathe in and breathe out. Swap sides. So the arm is coming down. Twist gently. Feeling any clicks, feeling the space in the upper body start to expand. Chest goes up and chest goes into concave as we draw the shoulders forward and the upper back curves backwards. Gently coming into neutral, rolling the shoulders, right, left, and swap. Let's take the ear to the shoulder and just let ourselves hang there. Released, relaxed, but stretching. Breathing in and over we go. So today we're going to be looking at the wrist circle before we launch into some more bouncy hip work. It's really important to connect to the hands. So far we've looked at our body sway. We've looked at how we transfer the weight, right, left, right, left. We've worked into a snake arm, different types of snake arm. And in the snake arm, we looked at how we let that movement travel all the way through the arm into the wrists and then the fingers. So we want to keep this in our mind as we look at connecting now simply into our wrists. So we just take one, for example. I'm pulsing down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So just getting used to expressing or dancing with the hand. A lot of dancers will just start with these very beautiful hand movements, as perhaps they're picking out one instrument, flute or an air instrument often. So down, up, down, up, down, up. Let's try that with the two hands. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So all we're doing here, obviously keeping our posture, so making sure our pelvis is tucked forwards, chest is lifted up, shoulders are down and relaxed, and there's a sense of ease in the jaw and the face. So we're holding posture, which takes strength, and you may start to feel this now in your biceps or your shoulders. So feel free to lower it down, take some of the strain out if there's any there, or you might want to practice just isolating and sending that higher, pulsing one after the other, one after the other. And then I want you to just think about going into these beautiful wrist circles. And these wrist circles allow us to embellish our movements. They allow us to draw energy in and keep everything flowing in our dance. So one way you can think about this, when we're doing it in a very accentuated way, you will feel the strength. You will feel the muscles in your biceps and your forearms and your wrists working. So this is how you know you're doing a good wrist circles. It should feel like you're almost scooping out treacle or moving the hand through a river, through water, strong water. So there's resistance and there's strength and there's progress. There's a real action happening. We're not just sort of half doing it. We're putting our energy and our focus in. And that's why it's so good to break these moves down as we are. Yeah? So imagine you're scooping all of the fruit out of an orange, all of the fruit out of a melon, grabbing it, nourishing yourself. Shake out the wrists, and we'll go back into that exercise. Wrists, fingers, wrists, fingers, wrists, fingers, wrists, fingers. And as we do this, we do a little twist in the upper body as we go one way and the other. Shaking it out. So I want you to think about holding a wine glass. And the hands are thumb and middle finger almost touching. And then the rest of the hands are the rest of the fingers are extended out. I have a little tendency I have a little slightly crooked little finger which often just does its own thing. So I have to really think about this, but clearly I can extend my fingers. So I'm just showing you about creating awareness in your whole body, right to the tips of your fingers if you can. Keeps you connected. Okay, so we're holding this wine glass, yeah, and this is one of the traditional hand poses of belly dance. Okay, and then we're going to take that wine glass to the side, keeping that hand shape, and we're just going to turn it upside down, and we're going to turn it back up and back down. So what we're doing here is we're just breaking it down, up, down. And this is a great exercise you can do. It's a move you can bring into a choreography. Yeah. And then once we've gone up and down, we can think about just smoothing that out. So now I want you to think about just softening that release and opening, or that wine glass full, wine glass empty gesture. And recircle just one side. Just one side. Trying to keep that little posture going in the hands. So we're avoiding any clawing of the fingers. We're avoiding hooking too strongly down. Breathe in and breathe out to the other side. Rotating, 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 rotating. Rotating, just drilling this now. One side may be easier than the other. Breathe in and breathe out. So let's do two together, and let's think about how we might want to use this in space. So they can travel up. Maybe they're going to go to the side. Maybe we're working some hips on the right hand side, and we're going to reach them to that same side. It's going to add emphasis to anything we do here on the right hand side. And this is what we're looking at, and this is why we're doing the wrist circles first. I know a lot of us just want to jump straight into a shimmy or a strong hip accent when we think about a belly dance instructional. But these moves really add the finesse, the expression and the flow into your dance. So we're using the wrist circles, maybe just one, to accentuate what we're doing with our body. So just to conclude, let's breathe in. And let's just cross the hands at the top. Feel the chest opening. Feel the upper body feeling probably quite alive now. Arms, hands, wrists, chest, opening up. And then we're just going to press to the side. So we're stretching out these arms now, trying to form right angles as our palms press out and our fingers point down, keeping the shoulder blades nice and relaxed and the jaw easy. And swap. Fingers pointing up. Feel the stretch. Breathe in and breathe out. We're going to just sweep our hands and our arms around us, and we're going to give ourselves a lovely hug. Thinking about all the creative possibilities that we've opened up as we look simply at a circle, that we can work with angles, solitary, solo, we can work them small, we can work them large, we can work them towards, and we can work them within. Thank you for joining me today. Hello and welcome to hip lifts. So we've just done some lovely wrist circles. So we're going to start by breathing in and circling the wrists. So breathing in and out. Breathing deeper as we reach to the sky, and breathing out as we go to the side. Breathing in to come up and out as we go to the side. Breathing in to come up and circling those wrists down as we breathe out. Let's try that again. Breathing in, circling the wrists, imagining that we're scooping out the fruit from a melon or an orange, or sweeping them through water. Feeling resistance, basically, and strength and power in the arms. They're going to frame our lovely hip work as we breathe in. And we breathe out to the side. Breathing in and out to the side. Good. I want you to take a little position with the feet where your weight is predominantly on the left, and you're creating a small bit of weight, maybe 20% weight, or even less, on the tiptoe position. So you've got about 3 inches in front of your balancing leg, and around 3 inches to the side. And I'll post a picture of what that looks like for you. Okay, so from that position I want you to just tuck the pelvis forward and lift the chest up slightly. So we're simply looking at posture now, okay, and we're just going to look behind us And following this arm as we warm up into our waist and our legs as they balance for us, and the other way. So you may feel some clunks and clicks, that's fine. And we're going to swap sides. So what we're looking at here is just developing strength in the supporting leg. So I'm now balancing most of my weight on my right leg, and I've got a little tiptoe position, maybe a little bit of weight, maybe 15 to 10% weight on the ball of my foot on the left. So just check you've got that position. Breathing in. And following the arm. Following the arm. Both ways. And feeling some strength start to gather, not just in the upper body and the shoulders, but in the glutes, in the thighs, as we're starting to balance our weight on one side. Come back to center. And I want you to just paddle the knees backwards and forwards. And as we do that softly, the hips start to rise. Just feeling that lovely release that we want to feel with a hip lift. So the energy is coming up, up, up. So as we press the knee back, the hip naturally presses up. So let's try that. Going on to our tiptoes. So as we step, the hip rises. As we step, the hip rises. As we step, the hip rises. And we can travel with this. So let's do 2 forward and 2 back. 2 forward and 2 back. 2 forward and 2 back. So imagine a square, and we're just stepping onto those points. And relax. Put the weight onto the left leg and gently tuck the pelvis forward. As we just have, pressing the knee back, the hip rises. So we're in that tiptoe position on the right leg, or the ball of the foot is pressing onto the floor. And we lift the hip by pressing the knee back. We don't lock the knee, but we can get a sense of whether we're creating a soft lift by controlling the move, or sharper by being a little bit more staccato and a little sharper with that press back of the knee. Swap sides. So as you can see now, we're forming a frame. So the side that's moving is generally the side that we are having our hand closest to. So you might want to think of your hand as like a torch light or a spotlight, or a guide showing what we're doing. So again, tucking the pelvis forward, gently lifting the chest, shoulders back and down, form the frame, and we're thinking about using the knee and also pressing the ball of the foot down on the support on the leg, that you've got the ball of the foot on the floor. So the left side here is pressing. So experiment. Push from the foot, press from the knee. So the two are happening simultaneously, but it's good to think about one and then maybe think about the other, and feel how that whole movement in the hip is very much coming from the lower leg, and the energy then travels up the thigh into the hip and obviously beyond. Da, 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 da. So a basic hip lift comes up. That's the main thing we want to learn, is about bringing the energy up and how we can train our body to feel what's happening. So there's a pinching in the waist and then a relaxation down. But what we want is that pinching into the waist to be the predominant feeling and muscle action. Because when we start relaxing it down, we create the next move, which is a hip drop. So I want you to think that there's a level here, yeah, and your hip will rise above that level, and then it will return to that level. It will rise above, and it will return. It will rise above, and it will return. Whereas with a hip drop, for example, there is a gathering of energy, and then the energy drops below the line. There's a gathering of energy and it drops. The emphasis is down. And we are coming up with our hip lift. So the drops go down, the lifts come up. Practice on the other side. Get your posture. Feel into it. Create a level so you can measure and see what's happening. Up and down. Up and down. But we are not pressing it down and going into a hip drop. We are coming up, 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 up. And it stops. It stops at neutral. We're not then pressing down into the drop. So almost leading into the next class, but just to give you that example. So let's try 4 hip lifts, but what we're going to do is we're going to tap the foot 1, 2, 3, 4, moving through the space as we do this. Small, maybe a couple of inches apart. 1, 2, 3, 4, and change. 1, 2, 3, 4, and change. Maybe just 2. 1, 2, and another 2. 1, 2. Maybe we're going to form a little diamond shape. So we're going to go in, forward, side, back. In, forward, side, back. And every time we do the hip lift, we create a little tiptoe or pressure on the ball of the foot on the side that we're working in. So the diamond shape comes in, forward, side, back. So basically making shapes with our hip lifts. So we don't just have the one, we have many options. So we go down, perhaps using our supporting leg to move down into space. And the last variation is the travelling hip lift. So we create the lift and we have a slight progression through space as we do this. So the side that's working will be in the ball of the foot position, and the other foot is flat, almost like it's being dragged along. It doesn't step, it just slides along. And then we create this smoothness in opposition to the accenting of the hip. So that great parallel between isolation and flow. 2 and 2. 2 and 2. 1, 1. 1, 1. And relax. So our hip lifts are really something that are best done to music to give us a nice way of accessing all the hips, all the music with our hips. And you can think about moving those hips through space by moving the foot as you go, or simply keeping the ball of the foot flat and moving the hips in shapes as we've done with our diamond, or a circle, or simply in, out, in, out, in, out. But always coming from that idea of bringing the energy up and beyond. To hip drops. So we're going to warm up into this movement now by making sure our feet are about hip width apart, and we're just going to breathe in, and as we breathe out we're going to come halfway, and we're just going to stretch the arms forward. Feel the back nice and flat. Dip down to the floor and uncurl slowly. And then supporting the lower back, we're going to push the thighs and the pelvis forward and just take a very gentle back bend, keeping hold of the neck and the head, so we're not letting that flop back or down. Lifting into neutral, and we'll do the same thing again. So breathing out, a half bend, flat backs, press the hands forward and dipping down, letting everything feel loose and floppy, maybe taking a little sway in the back, working from the hips. Breathing in to come up and counter stretching back. Breathing into neutral. We're going to bring the knee up to the belly and squeeze it in. Squeeze it in. So these are some of the common warm-up moves that I'll do for any class that I teach. And hopefully through this course you're developing a vocabulary of warm-up moves. Yeah? So squeezing that in, and if you think you've squeezed it as hard as you can, let's squeeze it in a bit more. And down with control. Shake it out, and we'll go for the other side. Breathing in, squeeze the knee up to the belly. And while you're there, you can point and flex the toes and the feet. Point the toes, flex from the ankle, or maybe some gentle rotations from the ankle. And remember, if you think you've got there, let's see if we can go that little bit higher and squeeze in deeper. Down with control. Let's just even up with the footwork, pointing and flexing on the other side. Rotating from the ankle. And then we're just going to bring the arm out as we bring the leg over the supporting leg. So no need to work too deeply. But what we're looking at is balance and opening up and supporting and helping the hips and the thighs to just open and develop strength. So looking at opening and closing the hip, down with control, having a shake and trying it on both sides. So this left side, whichever side you've done, will probably feel a little bit looser and more energized. So we're breathing in and use the out breath to squeeze deeper into that stretch. And then we're going to take the knee and the thigh over. You can even look into the arm that you're extending out to develop a twist as well into the upper body. And then opening it out, feeling the power in the supporting leg. It's not so easy. And then we're going to rotate both ways, both ways. And if your balance goes, that's fine. Just pick it up and shake it out. So that release, that shake, will feel really relaxing after you've had all of that engagement into the muscles there. Shaking it out, shaking the legs. And then we're just going to go into some really gentle hip circles. And they're half circles to begin with. So we press to the right, sweep forward so the pressure is on the balls of the feet, and then we take it to the left. And the weight is on the left and the outer part of the feet as we then press to the left, sweep forward and land on the right. So just warming up the hips forward, and then we're going to try to create a full hip circle. So this time the weight is taken onto the heels, then the side of the feet, then the balls of the feet, the other side of the feet, and round. So both ways. So we could go to the side, to the balls of the feet, to the other side, to the heels. All the time, keeping connection into the floor. Good. So today we're looking at hip drops. We've already had a little look into body sway, where the whole body is involved. We've had a look at creating some precision as we isolate a snake arm, and we've looked at how we can work wrist circles into our dance and our expression, and some very smooth figure of eights we've covered, and then the nice, fun, easy to learn hip lifts from the last class. So the energy with the hip drop, as we've explained, is the downward motion. The downward motion. So we're dealing with maybe the heavy beat of the drum, the doom, more often than not. So just want you to practice this little exercise, and then we're going to translate it from the upper body to the hips. So I'd like you to draw up your shoulders just a little and then let them go. So this is an exercise in itself, obviously, to help us relax and release tension. We gather the energy and we release. Let's look at doing that with a little bit of posturing into the arms. We're going to gather the energy and release. Doom. There's a heaviness. Boom. There's a drop. We gather, we release. We gather, we release. So we're not forcing the arms down. We're literally letting them go. There's a conscious letting go in this motion. And it's the same with the hips. Yeah, maybe just try it with one shoulder. Gather the energy and the tension, let it go. Gather the energy and the tension, let it go. Yeah, so we just let go. Same with the hips. Hips feet about hip width apart. about 3 inches to the side, about 3 inches forward. But this foot position that we've explained during the foundation work of the hip lift, it's very dependent on your sizing, your hips, your thighs, but generally not too wide and not too close together. So we're creating movement for the legs and for the expression of the hips by forming this foot position. So we've got the balance and the weight on the left now, a little bit of weight, about 10-15% on the ball of the foot on the right. Okay, and we're just going to form a little frame, and we're just going to do a little wiggle, a little rotation, where we're travelling the ground up and down, but we're rounding all of that off with this oval shape as we work into the hips, gently warming up. So I want you to feel the space below and the space above. The space above, the space below. Above, below, above, below. And it's this driving down. It's this driving down that we really want to find. The depth for the hip drop. Yes, and most of us can come up really easily. But what we want is to also have the ability to sweep and curve and move the hips down. And for this there'll be a lengthening in the torso muscles, the abdominal muscles, the psoas muscle, all be working here as we press down. So whereas in the hip lift there was a tightening up, squeezing of the waist predominantly as we came up, now we're looking at a lengthening as we come down. So the hip lift is a squeezing and the hip lift goes down. And we can do, the hip drop goes down. We can do the drops with that ball of the foot position and a flat foot on the opposite leg. Or we can do it flat-footed, which very much goes more into the shimmy walk, which is what we'll be doing in the next class. Okay, so let's have a little think about how we can play with our hip drops. In the hip lift class, we looked at creating a level and checking in with the hips. So with a hip drop, we'd gather a little bit of energy over that hip level, that line we've created, which would always become an invisible line. You wouldn't be checking it in a dance, choreography or performance as such, but for training we want to check this invisible line, mark it out, gather the energy. There's a slight rise there, but you'll notice I'm not really lifting beyond that line to a great extent. Lift a little, gather the energy, remember the exercise, release, let go basically. And how do we help ourselves let go? Remember how important the knees are. So the knee might just come forward a little. But remember, we're engaging the muscles predominantly around the hips, the abdomen, the glutes, the thighs, and always coming from the feet as well. So we may press the ball of the foot down slightly as we gather the energy, and then let it go. Gather, release, gather, release. Now I want you to think about having a very relaxed thigh on the opposite side, on the supporting leg. relaxed muscles in the thigh, relaxed muscles in the buttocks, and a nice loose, so not locked knee on the supporting leg. And what we then do is we create this lovely bouncy hip drop. So this is a drop that we can make shapes with, like we did with our hip lift. So I'm taking these in a little circle or a little diamond shape. Or we could take it down in the space. And this will really work your thighs. So if you want to get some dancer's legs on you for Valentine's Day, then do a few of these every day. Down you go, still dropping the hip. So there's a little bit of brain, left-right brain work going on here. The body is traveling down. Fine when the hips are going down too, but those hips have to keep going down when the body comes up. And change. So bouncy, relaxed on the supporting leg. So this is my right leg is really feeling quite soft and free, and this translates into the hip drops then, and they're just small practice ones. And then I'm going to think about making some shapes in the space. This is one of my favourite moves. I love the way we can involve the upper body with this. In and out perhaps, and up and down. Really working the thighs, and if you're holding this position with me, you'll also feel the upper body is saying hello. Holding this position as we isolate and control the body and relax. So that's a relaxed, bouncy hip drop. And there's other types. So there's the other one I wanted to show you is the same move, but we're going to grab a hold of the glutes and tighten them, and we're going to tighten the thigh as well on the supporting leg. And basically what this does is it gives us a sharper, cleaner drop. So experiment, relax the glutes, relax the thighs, control the glutes, and then what you do is you get this much more staccato version of a hip drop. And I like that. I like that variation. So remember to engage the glutes. You will literally feel that engagement and the tension and the holding of the muscles as we support the bones in a much stronger way. Literally less room for the bones to go when we're holding the muscles tightly. Yeah? So we're really controlling more deeply here as we drop, 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 drop with those engaged glutes. Do, 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 do. So you might want to use this for small hip moves. Tiny, 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 tiny ones. So that's a really good exercise to go between bouncy and controlled. Bouncy and controlled. And that control can translate into these little chunks. So I've got real engagement in my glutes and my quads. I'm on tiptoes, and as I press with these little steps on the balls of my feet, the hips go down. So very different to the hips coming up, which is an exercise that we often do. So that's up and then down. And it's very much a different feeling into the waist. There's more going on here into the abs, whereas the hips coming up, it's a little bit more relaxed and free. Yeah? So the hip drop is, I would say, a harder move to master. But it's very liberating when you can master the two and go between the two, and especially in response to the music. So there's just a couple more things to teach you about the hip drop. And that's the twisting, or I call this, it's almost like a seat. So there's a twisting motion. The ball of the foot is up, and there's a little twisting motion back and forward. So I learnt this as Turkish style. A Turkish style hip drop. And there's a lot of footwork that you can add on to this move, as when you come back, the foot is released. So I'll just show you that there. Obviously it doesn't go that high, but just so that you know, the hip comes back and the foot is released. Hip comes back, foot is released, and then you press the foot down to come back into neutral. So let's go together. Release, connect, release, connect, release, connect, release, connect. And you'll notice there's an energy of downward motion, and that comes from the supporting leg, again, the knee bending slightly. So these hip drops, all the fashions of the ones that we're doing, are really strengthening your legs. Warrior legs for 21. That's what we want, that's what we need. Try it on the other side. First of all, just feel into the motion. Feel into the motion of that twist and release. Twist, release, connect. So the twist, down, supporting leg goes down, release the foot, out, and then bring the foot back and reconnect into neutral. Dum, da, dum, da, dum, da, dum, da. So we're building these moves ready for some choreography work and some choreography classes over the next few months. So this might be a class that I would point you to from that choreography. So as we always add a little creative, I'll share this with you now. So we're going to twist down and then double up. So there's quite a lot of room. We're moving about, gosh, maybe 8 inches there as we go back. So you maybe think about 4 inches and then 4 inches to return. So we're doing the return in a double phase. Dum, ba, ba. Dum, half full. Dum, half full. Dum, half full. You could do the return all the way, or you could measure it half full. Dum, half full, or dum, full, full. But as you can see, we're going to be working with a dum, tack, tack. Dum, tack, tack, dum, tack, tack. Or full, dum, full, full, dum, full, full. There's always that motion before we launch into any accent, the action before the action, yeah? So even with this hip drop going back, there's always a little energy that comes forward first before we release. Dum, and then a little bit of energy to gather the force to then finish tack. Dum, tack, tack, dum, tack, tack, dum, tack, tack. Well done. So hopefully you can see that we're moving through, easing into belly dance, gathering skills, creative ideas, looking at the energy of the body, what's working, what's still, what maybe feels like it wants to work while the other part is working, and connecting into this easing into belly dance course. So let's just breathe in and out. Chin on the chest, breathing in, going up onto our toes, and breathing out. I want you to try and grab a hold of your ankle, and this is fine to stay here. I want you to feel the hip dropping out of the socket and just being completely supported as you hold with strength the ankle. And here you're getting a stretch on the shoulder, the arm, the torso, the hip, the front of the legs, all working together. Brilliant stretch. Those of you that want to launch into the dancer, the yoga pose, feel free. And then we're going to bring that knee up to the belly, back to where we were at the beginning, and down with control. Have a little shake, swap sides. Always breathing in before we take the stretch, and then really feeling a sense of release. I love this move. It's so simple, but it's so supportive to our hip as we just let it go. Let any need to hold that leg, hold that lower back. We don't need to do it. Just let it go. We're holding the ankle, we're holding ourselves strong. You can build into this stretch simply by reaching up, adding another dimension, or you can go into the dancer yoga pose. Good. Release. Take a moment, breathing in, and as we breathe out, we're just going to tuck the knee up, pull it into the belly, squeeze the knee in, and again deep breathing. As we breathe out, we're going to try and go deeper with the stretch, and letting it go. Shake everything out. I want you to take a really wide pose now. Wide, yeah? Okay, and I just want you to do what we did at the beginning. So you're going to come forward and creating that flat back, pressing out the hands, just enjoying that feeling into the legs, which you've worked so hard. Coming down, touching into the floor, breathing in, coming up. Prayer hands. And we're just going to breathe in and breathe out. So as we breathe out, we come down. The hips are forward, trying to get the knees pressing out. Lovely feeling of openness in the inner thighs. We're going to bring the energy back to back with the hands, into prayer hands at the heart, as we launch through the center of the body, and then opening the palms out to the side, and breathe out. It's a little bit of qigong. And out. Just bring those legs a little bit closer, but keeping them nice and wide. And we're just going to go from side to side. So we're going to go a little bit straighter, drawing the toes up to the shin. Swap sides, drawing the toes up to the shin. So I hope you can visualize that. Obviously, this is the entirety of the space I currently have to teach in. So you can't quite see what my feet are doing. But basically we're just stretching the inside of the legs and the back of the legs. Very important to do that. I hope you know through these sessions you're starting to feel all of your body become energized and engaged. So thank you for joining me for hip drops, and I'll see you very soon for shimmies and some footwork. So we'll be pointing the camera down and looking at triple steps and step touches.